Welcome everybody to the HolloTalk podcast. This is Jetpack Nick, and I am here by myself today. Yeah, that sounds weird to say. Because I normally have guests and everything that comes on the podcast with me. We talk and chop it up and things of that nature. But I am here by myself today. And the reason I'm here by myself today is because I want to share one of the most amazing experiences that I've ever had in my life. Just happened a couple days ago. So, for everybody that knows, um, Westside Gunn is my favorite rapper in the world, and he has a wrestling promotion called Fourth Rope. Fourth Rope is an amazing wrestling promotion. It's very very hardcore for real true wrestling fans, and it's it's a fun experience if you get a chance to go. Uh, and I did. I got a chance to go to Fourth Rope, the Hills Have Eyes event, Hills Have Eyes 9. Um, they just had it a couple of days ago, and I was able to go. It was all that I could have imagined it would be. It was very, 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 very amazing. Um, I had went with my boy Mark. Shouts out to Mark, man. We went for his birthday. So, happy birthday to you, Mark. The people don't really get a chance to see you, but I always got to shout you out when I get a chance to talk about my boy. But yeah. Yeah, so me and Mark went to Hills Have Eyes 9, for Fourth Rope. And it was really, really dope. We got there and we walked through, got through smooth, and we was actually able to meet some of the wrestlers that was going to be wrestling at the event that day. So we got a chance to meet the Fourth Rope champion Zilla Fatu. Shouts out to Zilla Fatu. He showed me mad love, when we came through, gave me your time, and took a couple pictures with me and everything. And I got a chance to meet your brother. Shouts out to your brother as well, man. Um, yeah, it was just an amazing experience, being able to, really, really, meet you guys, and you know, you guys be personable like that. Like that was really, really amazing, So like I said, I got to meet my boy Zilla, man. Huge, huge, huge Zilla Fatu fan for sure, man. You know. And I got a chance to meet Rio as well. Rio is the Fourth Row Women's Champion. Shouts out to Rio. Rio was really, really, really cool, man. She actually just reposted one of my videos of me being at Fourth Rope, and that was a special, special moment, just looking at all these people that you've watched on TV for a long time and everything, people that you admire, and you actually get a chance to see them in person. Like I talk to people on the podcast, all the time, people that I admire, or people that I learn to admire, or grow to admire. And it's one of those things where it seems normal to talk to these people, but then you get a moment where you actually meet these people in person, not being behind a computer screen or a microphone, and you actually get to feel their presence, and really be in the moment. And I was actually able to be in that moment. And for somebody who who talks to people for a living and everything, you would think that um, you kind of would be cool under these kind of circumstances. But I actually was really, really, showing love, and really, really being a fan of these people and a supporter of these people. I didn't go crazy like how some people do when they when they meet their favorite person, but I kept it rather cool. But I was actually able to allow myself to, like, really be in the moment, and enjoy meeting these people, and really have a good time, and show the personality that I have, to be like, yo, like, oh my God, like, you're one of my favorites of all time, and so on and so forth. Try not to play it too cool. You don't go to those events to play it too cool, especially when you get a chance to meet these people. But yeah, yeah, I also got a chance to meet Real One, formerly known as Enzo Amore. Real, real cool dude too, man. I definitely got to get you on the podcast too. We talked about that. Zilla and Rio as well. Need y'all on the Hollow Talk podcast. But yeah, I was able to, flick it up with y'all, and, show my love and admiration, and y'all, show love back, and just did the same thing. It was really, 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 really amazing for me to be able to have that moment, and share that moment with you all, and also share that moment with my boy Mark, man. Shouts out to Mark once again for sure. you know. But then, the the crazy shit happened. And that was me meeting West Side Gun in person. So for anybody who knows this, West Side Gun is my favorite rapper in the world. And, you know, doing this podcast, like I have, dreams, aspirations of talking to, all the people that I admire and, people that, have made a major impact in my life. Um, like directly or indirectly, of course. But West Side Gun is kind of like the crown jewel of people that I want to interview, and I was able to meet him in person. You think about like all of the things that you would say to uh somebody that you admire if you got a chance to meet them in person. Like some people spend years and years and years thinking of, whenever I get that chance to talk to this person, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna say that, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that, or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, when you get a chance to meet these people, if you ever get a chance to meet these people, none of that shit happens. You don't say any of the things that you thought you was gonna say or do any of the things that you thought you was gonna do. Um, it was one of those kind of things. Now, when we were in the line, at the merch line, so the merch line, I got that new Hill shirt for the people who are going to see this on YouTube. Yeah, I got that merch. Shouts out to West for that. This shit is hard, bro, for real. But yeah, I got a chance to get in the line, and meet some of his people and everything. But then the moment came where West Side Gun is standing directly in front of me, and you kind of just look and like, oh shit, like I'm a foot away from from West Side Gun. You know what I mean? And for me, this was, very, very crazy. Even though like I didn't, like go crazy and like, like fan out or anything like that. I kept it real cool, But of course I told him, he was my favorite rapper in the world, dapped him up and everything, had a conversation with him and stuff like that. But it was so many things like running through my mind of like, yo, like I just want to tell you like how much of an impact you've had on my life and like how much like I want to get you on the podcast or should even collaborate with you for the people who know that I do music and stuff like that. You know, like it was just so many things that I wanted to say, but of course, you in line and everything, and you ain't got that much time to say all the things that you want to say. But um yeah, like that experience was just really really surreal. Like after the fact, being in it, it was kind of like normal, like I was supposed to be there, like whenever you get into those moments or you get into those environments, you kind of got to own it. You got to make it feel like you belong there, like you're supposed to be there. This is destined to happen. And for me with West specifically, it was one of those moments where I felt like I'm supposed to be here. Meeting you is like this is supposed to happen. And it's not the last time it's supposed to happen either. So, same with that being said, Wes, I'm definitely going, see you again for sure, man. Whether it's at another event or whatever the case may be. We will definitely be getting together again, man, and having a longer conversation than we had before. But one of the coolest things about talking to Wes, for people who've never met Wes in person, like he's a really, really, really cool dude, man. Like, like he's really, really cool. Like he showed mad love. It wasn't, one of those situations where people got the celebrity horror stories of, oh, this person was mean to me, or this person didn't give me the time of the day, none of that stuff or whatever. And West was really really cool and personable, man. Yeah, I'm sure he met a ton of people that day, and I'm sure everybody has the same kind of story. Like he was just really really dope. But the craziest thing, or the coolest thing I should say, for me that day was, when I was talking to Wes, he had asked my name, and I told him, my name is Nick, but I go by, Jetpack Nick. And he kind of looked at me, And he leaned in and was like, what you say your name was again?" And I, repeated it. I was like, "My name is Nick, but I go by Jetpack Nick." And he kind of leaned back and was looking at me. He was like, "I think I think I know you. Your name sounds kind of familiar, and at that moment I'm kind of like, what is happening right now? Like, what is going on? Like, you know my name, but again, that goes back to one of those things of you're supposed to be here, bro. Like, I was telling myself you're supposed to be here, and it was kind of crazy to me, like, because of course, you don't think that everybody sees everything or whatever, and I make the videos and talk about Wes, and telling the people how much I really enjoy his music, how much I love his music and his artistry, so on and so forth, and just him as an artist, period, regardless of music, fashion, so on and so forth. um Him saying that my name sounds familiar, or he's kind of familiar with my stuff, like that shit blew my mind because, like, you know what I mean, people he met that day, and for him to kind of look at me and be like, "No, you sound familiar. Like I think I know you." That shit was crazy. That was like one of the biggest moments for me. Uh, so it was funny because when people meet rappers or even singers or people that do music, one of the first things that they want to do is, rhyme for that person or sing for that person or whatever. And, for people who know me, like, that's not even my style at all. Like, I'm very, very, cognizant of, like, environment and, situational awareness when it comes to these kind of things or whatever. But for that moment, once Wes said he knew who I was and whatever, I figured he might have heard one of the songs that I did on "Summertime in the '90s" for the people who are familiar with "Summertime in the '90s." Um, we did a song called "Fly Guy for President." Mark had produced it. My guy TV, shouts out to TV. He had walked me through some of the things on that song too. But I shouted out Wes, on that song, obviously, because the song is called "Fly Guy for President," and I thought he might have heard the song, or whatever. So I kind of thought, I was like, "Yo, I don't know if you heard the song, but can I spit the verse for you?" There's only one verse on the song, but you trying to run an event and everything. You got people in line and stuff like that. But he told me, "Nah, we ain't got enough time for that. Not necessarily. I don't want to hear the verse per se, but we got a line. You're gonna gotta keep it moving and stuff like that," which I understood or whatever. But low key, it was funny to me because I'm like, damn, like, why did I say that kind of thing? But it's all good. If Wes, if he ever wanted to hear the song, if you ever want to hear the song, Wes, it's on "Summertime in the '90s" by Jetpack Nick, man. Fly Guy for President. But yeah, that moment was very, very funny to me because like, I'm not that person, man. I don't be wanting to rap for people. But if you ever meet your favorite rapper, you kind of gotta just take that shot and be like, "Yo, just let me rhyme for you one time," whether they say yes or no. But I kind of would have probably been kicking myself, if I didn't ask, even though I'm kind of like, damn, why did I ask? But it was all good, man. That moment was very, very surreal to me, man, honestly. And I I truly, truly, truly can't thank everybody, Wes included, all the wrestlers that I mentioned, Rio and Real One and Zillify too. Uh, you know, all of you guys are dope as hell, man. Like, y'all really made that moment very, very special for me, being that was my first fourth rope event, my first Hills Have Eyes event, and I was able to, like I said, shouts out to my boy Mark. I was able to, you know had that experience with my best friend Mark, and we was able to meet West together. He's a big West Side Gun fan too, like it's like myself. But we was able to share that moment together, got some pictures, captured the event and everything, which, everybody can see on my Instagram, if you go check it out at Jetpack Nick or at the HolloTalk podcast too. Um, yeah, it's just one of those things, man, where, you think about something for so long and then an opportunity presents itself for you to be able to, realize those dreams, or realize those moments that you thought about or dreamed about for as long as you could remember. And a couple days ago at Hills Have Eyes, that was one of those moments. Like, I got to meet West Side Gun, and for people who don't know, this was actually like crazy too, because this was the first time I was actually able to meet my favorite anything. Like, I got like I this he was, the first favorite of mine that I was able to meet in person, and I got, like I said, I've, talked to people on the podcast. I've met, people, celebrities or whatever before, but I never got a chance to meet my favorite anything, So, West is my favorite rapper in the world. And, I was able to meet him. So like that alone was just kind of like crazy to even thinking about, coming out of the moment, and having a day or two to kind of reflect on it. Like, you kind of just sit back and be like, yo, that shit was crazy, man. Because like, I never got a chance to meet, like my favorite basketball player, which is Kobe Bryant, obviously, because he isn't here. Rest in peace to Kobe, or like I didn't get a chance to meet um like my favorite baseball player like Alex Rodriguez, or I didn't get to meet my favorite rapper of all time, which is Big L. Shouts out to Big L, and rest in peace to Big L. Make sure y'all go listen to the new album. That shit is dope, and we definitely gonna have some content coming, surrounding that album. But yeah, like it was just crazy because, like I said, that was the first favorite that I've ever met, and some of those other people that I mentioned, like, I'll never get a chance to meet these people because sadly they no longer here. And then any of the other favorites that that I mentioned or might not have mentioned, like, hopefully I get a chance to meet them. I'll say their names just to put it out there in the universe: Alex Rodriguez and Ronaldinho, and Peyton Manning and Ladainian Tomlinson, people like that, the Rock as Stone Cold, all of my favorite people, and just different areas of whatever. But yeah, Wes was the first one, the first favorite that I met. So you know that alone was you know one of the greatest moments of my life. Along with the event, of course, the event was really, really dope. Shouts out to all the performers that performed too, and all the people that I named, and the people that I'm about to name, like Cha Cha Charlie. Shouts out to Cha Cha, um, Josh Bishop, Mara Sade, Tierra James, 5150. Just so many people to name, man. And like y'all really did y'all thing, and y'all killed it. And then we had performances too. With some of my other favorite, people. Euro Drew came out. Droog is one of my favorites too. Shouts out to Droog, man. We gotta get you on the podcast as well. Rome Streets came out. Then Beanie Siegel came out. Like, so just the whole situation was really, really dope, man. Like, being able to see all these people, the event not being, super duper crowded or nothing like that. Like, you was able to kind of just sit there and enjoy everything, not have to worry about, too much going on. Like, you really just got a chance to just really, really enjoy the wrestling event and the musical performances, and like I said, being able to meet these people and have really, really dope conversations and stuff like that. Like, it was just one of the best things ever, man. Yeah, yeah, like I said, I just wanted to come on here real quick and kind of just have a conversation about one of the best moments that I've ever had in my life, man. Like I said, I got to go to one of the dopest events in the world, with Hills Have Eyes, through Fourth Rope. Shouts out to Fourth Rope, man. You feel me? Um, and like I said, getting to meet these wonderful people, and then, like I said, meeting my favorite rapper in the world, West Side Gun, man. Like, like I could tell people, yo, I talked to West, bro. Like, what I'm saying, I shook the man hand. You feel me? And he said I'm familiar, so obviously I'm doing something right. But yeah, and speaking of that too, hey Wes, I I don't think I asked you um when I met you, but bro, I have to get you on the podcast, man. Like, whatever it takes, I got to get you on the pod, bro. Like, that has to happen for sure, man. Like it has to happen. We got to get you on the Hollow Talk podcast, man, without a doubt. And also, too, like I said, any of the other wrestlers or performers that I just named on here today, I got to get you on the podcast too. But like I said, Wes, got to get you on the pod, bro. Real talk. But yeah, man, I just want to give a shout out to the event as a whole, Hills Have Eyes and Fourth Rope, and like I said, give a shout out to all the performers and the people that I met, that I didn't name, like everybody played a role in making that a special moment for me, and it's one of those things where you should always celebrate moments like this, things that had positive impacts on your life. A lot of us spend a lot of time talking about negative things and things that we don't like, and we don't even acknowledge the things that we do like. So I wanted to acknowledge something that really made a cool impact on my life, and I was able to have my boy Mark there with me to to capture all these moments, and me capture the moments as well too. you know but yeah, yeah. Shouts out to everybody, man, for real. Shouts out to Wes, man. Once again, like you really put on one hell of a show, bro. Like I said, getting to meet you, that shit was the highlight of the year for me, man, for real. And like I said, that ain't gonna be the last time I'm gonna see you or talk to you or whatever. So just get ready, man. Um, we gonna get you on this podcast for sure. And everybody else, shouts out to y'all. I'm glad that everybody, had a safe performance, traveled safe, got back home safe, so on and so forth. Um, yeah, shouts out to Mark too, man. And I know I wanted you on the pod today, but everybody know, Mark is a behind the scenes guy, so he wasn't going to come talk. But I always got to shout my boy out every chance I get, man. Um, yeah, and anybody else that I didn't shout out, shouts out to y'all, man. Uh, yeah. With that being said, this has been the episode of me recapping Hills Have Eyes, and with that being said, I'm out. Peace and love, y'all.